Today, we are strapping in for, well, quite an intense session, I think. We're focusing entirely on the science of accelerated mastery.
That's right. We've really gone deep into the source materials here. They explain this pretty revolutionary deep learning platform.
Yeah, revolutionary is the word.
Yeah.
And it's built not just on, some new tech fad, but on a really powerful combination. Nobel Prize-winning cognitive science,
Mm.
proven Finnish pedagogy, the
Mhm.
PSO-winning kind, and then layered with cutting-edge adaptive AI.
It's quite the synthesis.
So our mission for you, the listener, is really clear today. We want to decode the fundamental value proposition. What's really going on inside this system?
And it's not just about learning one subject, right?
Mhm.
Like mastering, say, decoding venture capitalists or maybe teaching traumatized students. Those are examples from the sources.
Exactly. The bigger promise, the core idea, is that it trains your brain. It actually reshapes the process of learning itself.
Turning you into what this system actually calls a super learner.
A super learner. And the initial hook, it's almost confrontational, isn't it? The sources argue pretty strongly that when we fail to learn effectively, when we forget things, when we struggle,
Yeah.
it's not our fault as learners. It's the catastrophic failure of the traditional method.
That is the essential insight. It's a profound shift in perspective that this platform really pushes. For decades, learning has often meant, well, what the sources call basic learning.
Basic learning. Okay.
It's that process of sort of loosely connecting details, cramming them into short-term memory.
Uh-huh. The classic cram session.
Exactly. And then they degrade. They're forgotten.
Yeah.
Usually right after the test or the meeting. You've technically gained knowledge, but it's fragile, it's inert, it doesn't stick.
Right. It doesn't translate to real capability.
Precisely. But this new architecture, it promises to engineer something much more resilient,
Yeah.
something deeper.
Okay.
How? It guides the user through two advanced transformative stages. The
Mhm.
first is deep learning.
Deep learning.
This is where the system actively forces the formation of strong, robust neural connections. The kind designed to last for years, not just weeks.
Okay, so durability is key. And the second stage.
The second stage is true mastery. This is where your brain actually moves beyond simple recall.
Beyond just remembering facts.
Right. It starts to automatically recognize deep, complex patterns. That's the key to expert intuition, doing it faster and more accurately than your peers.
Wow. So it's building intuition, not just knowledge.
That's the goal. And the ultimate benefit, the real force multiplier here, is developing the meta skill of accelerated mastery.
The meta skill, meaning learning how to learn.
Exactly. Every single subject you tackle using this platform is designed to make you faster, more effective at mastering the next subject and the one after that. For life. It compounds.
Okay, let's unpack this core problem a bit more. That failure of traditional methods, we've all been there, right? Studying like crazy for a big presentation or an exam.
Oh, yeah.
Acing it, feeling great. And then maybe 2 months later, someone asks you about a core concept from it and blank. You can't really explain it.
The details are gone. Or worse, the underlying logic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if that's such a common experience, what is the fundamental flaw? Why does traditional education so often lead to this?
Well, the sources are pretty blunt about it. Traditional education, whether it's, a standard lecture or, frankly, most online courses, it uses a simple linear model. And they argue it's fundamentally broken. Present information, test for simple recall, repeat.
Just consumption and regurgitation.
Pretty much. It focuses on the quantity of information you're exposed to, not the quality of how you apply it. And that methodology basically guarantees basic learning.
That fragile, perishable knowledge we talked about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stored in short-term memory, the moment the context changes or just enough time passes, poof, it vanishes.
So the struggle is real because the method itself isn't designed for long-term competence. It's designed for, what, short-term compliance, passing the test.
That seems to be the outcome, yeah. The goal should be building an internalized system, something resilient enough to handle complexity, handle real-world application on the fly.
Which brings us to their alternative, this
Right.
revolutionary counterproposal. They call it the architecture of mastery.
Precisely. And this architecture, it aims for that resilience, that depth, by fusing three distinct, proven areas into one intelligent system. It's a synthesis.
Not just one magic bullet, but a combination.
Right. 3 pillars.
And these pillars are key to understanding why they claim it's so different, so much deeper. Let's name them.
Okay. Pillar number 1, The scientific foundation. And this isn't just based on like one study. It's rooted in Nobel Prize-winning science around expertise.
Okay, heavy hitters.
Yeah. And then it's enhanced and validated by, get this, 31 other cornerstone studies in cognitive and educational science. It's got serious academic backing.
31 others. Wow. Okay, that's the science. Pillar 2.
Pillar number 2, the pedagogical foundation. This brings in the excellence of PISA-winning Finnish education.
Ah, Finland. We hear a lot about their system.
We do. And this isn't just a buzzword here. This contribution is critical. It's actually embodied by one of the co-founders, Marjo Dillström. She brings over 22 years of experience as a high-performing Finnish educator.
Okay, hold on. Because when people hear Finnish education, they often think, oh, less homework or something simple. What specific elements are we talking about? What makes Finnish pedagogy suitable for deep learning?
That's a great question because it goes way beyond just curriculum structure. It's about the mindset, the environment needed for mastery.
Okay.
Dillström's influence ensured that key Finnish principles are baked right in. Things like prioritizing conceptual depth over just covering vast amounts of material superficially.
Quantity over quantity.
Right. Individualized pacing based on actual competence, not just sticking to a calendar schedule. And crucially, this concept of psychological safety.
Psychological safety, that sounds important.
It's huge. Creating an environment where making a mistake isn't seen as shameful failure, but as valuable diagnostic data, information you can use to improve.
So failure is learning.
Exactly. They basically took the core principles that led to those high PIAS scores, the ones focused on synthesis, complex problem solving, and engineered them into this digital platform.
Okay, so you have the strong structural framework from Finland paired with that deep science base. And then Pillar 3 ties it all together.
That's right. Pillar 3 is the technological muscle, the adaptive power of cutting-edge artificial intelligence.
And the AI isn't just a content server, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Its role is much more sophisticated. It acts like a precision coach. It's constantly diagnosing where you're struggling, those performance bottlenecks we mentioned, and dynamically adjusting the difficulty.
The challenge point.
Exactly, keeping you right at that optimal challenge point. That's something human teachers, brilliant as they are, really struggle to do effectively at scale for every single student.
Makes sense. And what's fascinating, the sources point this out, this wasn't like an AI company searching for an application.
Yeah, it was the other way around.
It started as an academic idea looking for the best way to be implemented.
Correct. The core methodology actually originated from a rigorous master's thesis at the University of Helsinki.
Really?
Yeah. It focused on personalized, gamified language learning. And the research showed some startling results. Students weren't just performing better on tests.
What else?
They started spontaneously grasping complex linguistic patterns, stuff they hadn't even been explicitly taught. It just clicked.
Wow. Intuitive learning.
Kind of. And that research, that proof of concept, is apparently being prepared for scientific publication now. It showed the whole thing started by asking the fundamental question, how does the human brain actually build lasting expertise? Not just, how do we pass a test?
Okay, so that academic rigor, that deep question, leads us straight into the science, the operating manual for the whole platform.
Exactly. It's powered by those 32 scientific principles we mentioned. We can group them into categories to see how they build a complete learning loop.
Right. Let's start with the foundation, the core philosophy. The sources say there are 2 principles here that define what expertise even is, according to this system.
Yes. The first one combines insights from some giants, Nobel laureate Herbert A. Simon and K. Anders Ericsson. It's deliberate practice and chunking.
Deliberate practice. We hear that term a lot in sports and music.
And it applies just as much to cognitive skills. The core idea is simple. Just putting in hours doesn't automatically make you an expert. Not all practice is created equal.
Right.
Mastery comes from deliberate practice. That means goal-directed training that ruthlessly targets your specific weaknesses, what the system calls performance bottlenecks.
Finding the exact point where you're failing.
Precisely. The system uses what they call high diagnosticity tasks, tasks designed specifically to reveal why your understanding broke down. And it always sets these tasks just slightly beyond your current comfort zone.
Operating at that optimal challenge point.
That's the sweet spot. It's not supposed to be comfortable practice. It's focused, sometimes uncomfortable, but that's where the maximum growth happens.
And this intense focus helps with what Simon called chunking.
Exactly. Chunking is, well, it's basically the fundamental mechanism behind expert intuition.
How so?
Think about it. A novice looks at a complex situation, maybe a chessboard, a patient's chart, a tricky business problem, and they see hundreds of individual, disconnected details. It's overwhelming.
Right. Information overload.
But an expert, through thousands of hours of this kind of deliberate practice, learns to recode those tiny cues into larger, meaningful patterns, chunks.
Ah, so they see the bigger picture automatically.
Yes. Their working memory isn't overloaded by the details because they're processing these larger chunks. It allows them to handle vastly more complexity and react faster. The platform is built to force this chunking process through constant application.
Okay, that makes sense. Deliberate practice builds the chunks, and the second philosophical principle ensures this learning isn't just abstract.
Correct. This one comes from the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, meaning as use.
Meaning as use. What does that mean in this context?
Wittgenstein argued that you don't truly understand something just because you can recite its definition. That often leads to what's called inert knowledge, knowledge you have but can't actually use.
Okay, like knowing the dictionary definition of strategy but having no idea how to actually formulate one.
Exactly that. True understanding, for Wittgenstein, is the ability to use a skill or concept correctly in a relevant situation, in what he called a language game.
So context is everything.
It is. And this principle means the platform ensures every single learning task is an active simulation. It forces you to deploy the knowledge.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you learn about a specific negotiation tactic. The system won't just ask you to define it. It'll immediately throw you into a simulated scenario and ask, okay, if your counterpart says X, how will you respond using tactic Y, and why is that the right move based on principle Z?
Ah, so it forces you to build a conditional policy. If this, then that, because...
Precisely. It turns abstract concepts into actionable conditional knowledge, an instructional policy stored in your brain, ready to go. That directly tackles why so much school knowledge feels useless. It was taught like a dictionary entry, not an action plan.
Okay, philosophy covered. Now let's move to the practical side. How does the information actually get into the brain effectively, the information and principles? There are 8 of them.
Yes, 8 key principles here focused on optimizing that knowledge transfer and crucially preventing cognitive overload.
Right. First up is deep personalization and the self-relevance effect.
This taps into a fundamental aspect of memory. The science is clear.
Yeah.
We remember things much better when they're connected to our own lives, our identity, our goals. It's probably an evolutionary thing.
We pay attention to what matters to us personally.
Exactly. So the AI leverages this self-relevance effect. It dynamically customizes the content.
Yeah.
If you're an executive in, say, the software industry, the AI won't teach you about management using generic examples from manufacturing. It'll use highly specific scenarios involving sauce metrics, agile teams, scaling issues, things directly relevant to your world.
So the context feels immediately applicable.
Yes, and that personal framing makes the material inherently more significant to you, the learner, which means the encoding process is stronger and the retention is deeper.
That personalization sounds key. Next is authoritative presence and parasocial relationship. This sounds a bit like branding.
It's more than just branding. It's about boosting the effectiveness of the instruction. Think about it. A generic, flat chatbot voice. Easy to ignore, easy to dismiss its feedback.
True.
This platform intentionally embodies the consistent voice and persona of credible, world-class experts, like Marjo Billström, the Finnish educator, or Christian Dahlström, a business influencer mentioned in the sources.
Okay.
This consistent, high-credibility presence creates a sense of being personally mentored. It fosters a positive parasocial relationship.
Like having a trusted guide.
Exactly. And that relationship dramatically increases your receptivity to the feedback you get. You're more motivated to meet the standard set by this perceived mentor.
Interesting. That sense of mentorship, though, would be completely undermined if you had to wait ages for feedback. Which leads to the next principle, instant feedback and operant conditioning.
Absolutely critical for speed.
Yeah.
This borrows from B.F. Skinner, but optimizes it for learning.
How so?
In traditional settings, feedback is often delayed. You wait days, maybe weeks, for a grade on a paper or project. By then, the connection between your action and the consequence is really weak.
You've forgotten half of what you did.
Right. This system provides immediate private feedback on every single microtask, every interaction.
Instant gratification or instant correction?
Both. It creates this really tight, rapid learning loop. Correct skills get reinforced immediately. Bad habits or misunderstandings get flagged and corrected before they become ingrained, before they proceduralize. Low latency correction is vital for mastering skills quickly.
Okay, speed is good, but what about getting overwhelmed? especially with complex topics. That's where hierarchical structure and cognitive load theory comes in.
Precisely. This is where the platform proactively manages the risk of cognitive overload, which, as John Sweller's theory points out, is often the silent killer of effective learning.
How does it manage it?
Learning is always scaffolded, always structured. The system forces you to build the big picture first. Establish the global overview, the mental schema, like the conceptual bookshelf, before it starts introducing the really complex, detailed parts.
Build the shelf before you load the books.
Perfect analogy. If you just start shoving detailed facts into a brain that doesn't have the right structure ready, the whole thing collapses. It ensures you build an organized understanding, which actually makes the chunking process we talked about earlier much easier down the line.
We're moving fast, but the next few principles seem focused on ensuring everyone finds a way to grasp the material. Multi-lens comprehension scaffolding and unlimited alternative explanations.
Yes, this addresses the fact that people learn differently. If one explanation or one angle doesn't click for you,
Which happens all the time.
all the time, the AI doesn't just give up, it instantly provides another perspective. If you're struggling with a mathematical explanation of a financial concept, maybe it pivots immediately to the historical context or the strategic implication.
So it adapts to your sticking points.
Instantly. This rapid, customized delivery of alternatives builds what psychologists call cognitive flexibility. It helps you build expertise that isn't rigid, but adaptable. And it pairs this with targeted drilling,
Meaning?
meaning the deliberate practice is truly deliberate. The AI doesn't make you waste time practicing things you already know well. It focuses the practice only on the specific subcomponents, the specific areas where its diagnostics showed you were weak. Maximum efficiency.
Let's pause on something you mentioned earlier, which sounds absolutely foundational. Total privacy and psychological safety. Amy Edmondson's work, right?
Yes, building on her research.
Now, I think some listeners, especially high-achieving professionals, might be a little skeptical here. In a system clearly designed for high performance, how do you really guarantee psychological safety? Isn't there still internal pressure, even if no one else sees your mistakes?
That's a really crucial point. The system tackles this by removing all external risk and maximizing internal diagnostic honesty.
What does that mean in practice?
It means all your interactions, every mistake you make, every weakness the system identifies. It's completely confidential. Only you and the AI know. There's zero social penalty, zero professional risk.
A true sandbox.
Exactly, a safe-to-fail sandbox. And when failure isn't punished externally, you, the learner, are far more likely to take the necessary intellectual risks. You're more willing to push past your comfort zone to try things you're not sure about.
Because the cost of failure is essentially zero, except for learning what you did wrong.
Precisely, and that willingness to try and fail is absolutely essential for building genuine resilience and deep competence. It unlocks that crucial diagnostic feedback loop.
Okay, that makes sense. Finally, for these foundational principles, the driving force, gamification and competence motivation, drawing from self-determination theory.
Right, Destiny and Ryan's work. The idea here is that intrinsic motivation, doing something because you find it inherently satisfying, is the only fuel that really sustains deep, effortful learning over the long haul. Extrinsic rewards wear off.
So how does the platform foster that intrinsic drive?
It structures the whole learning experience to systematically satisfy the three core psychological needs identified by self-determination theory.
Right here.
1, competence, that feeling of mastery, the inherent joy of successfully tackling a difficult, optimally challenging task. Getting that 90% mastery score on a tough concept feels good.
Okay. Competence? 2.
2, autonomy, having a sense of control. The freedom to choose which specific topics you want to drill down on within a subject, or which type of explanation works best for you.
And 3.
3, relatedness, that sense of connection. In this case, it's primarily felt through that consistent, supportive, yet authoritative mentoring voice we discussed earlier. You feel guided, not just processed by a machine.
So by hitting competence, autonomy, and relatedness,
The platform aims to transform deep, difficult learning from feeling like a chore into something genuinely engaging and rewarding in its own right.
all right, so we've got the science bedrock, the optimized knowledge flow, the motivational engine running. Now for the core mechanism, the part that actually does the heavy lifting of transforming theory into skill.
The cognitive gym.
The cognitive gym, I like that. The platform generates, what, 100 unique deep learning tasks for every single concept?
That's the claim, for every core concept within a subject. And this is where those 32 scientific principles really come alive. They get operationalized into concrete actions.
So these aren't just multiple choice quizzes.
Absolutely not. Forget passive quizzes. These are carefully designed cognitive maneuvers. They force you, the user, to approach the material from dozens of different angles, explaining it, applying it, critiquing it, creating with it, solving problems using it.
A multi-pronged attack on understanding.
You could say that. It ensures the knowledge isn't just sitting there memorized, but deeply interwoven into your brain's existing network of concepts, your schema.
Okay, let's get concrete. How did these tasks actually put the science into practice? Let's start with memory keeping the knowledge from vanishing.
Right. One of the most powerful principles here is retrieval practice, also known as the testing effect. Henry Roediger and Jeffrey Karpik's work, among others.
The idea that actively recalling information strengthens the memory trace.
Massively. And it combats that dangerous illusion of fluency. You know, where you reread something, it feels familiar, so you think you know it cold.
But you don't, really.
Exactly. The platform shatters that illusion immediately. Take a task like the blind recall challenge.
Sounds intense.
It is. You stare at a blank screen and have to type out everything you can remember about a concept you just learned. No prompts.
Wow. Okay.
Then you get an instant graded assessment. Accuracy, completeness. But crucially, the next task might force you to explain why a specific point you missed is actually critical to how the concept works.
So it forces effortful recall and connection.
Yes. That effort, plus the immediate diagnostic feedback, really locks the information in. It's active, not passive.
And complementing that is the generation effect, the idea that creating is better than consuming for memory.
That's right. Slameka and Graf showed this back in the 70s. Information you actively generate yourself is far more memorable than stuff you just passively read or watch.
So the platform avoids low-effort clicks.
It actively avoids them. It demands creation. For example, a task called the 3 headlines.
Okay.
You have to take a complex topic you just learned and summarize its core essence in 3 distinct, punchy news-style headlines. That forces synthesis, selection, understanding the core message.
You have to really get it to do that well.
Or another one. Generate the core culture. You read a section explaining a solution or concept, and your task is to figure out and articulate the fundamental problem or question that this text is actually trying to answer. You reverse engineer the purpose.
Turning the passive learner into an active knowledge producer.
That's the goal.
Okay, memory is one thing. What about building really robust, error-proof understanding? That's where the self-explanation effect comes in.
Yes. Michelin-Chi's work here is key. It's all about forcing you to identify and repair the inevitable gaps in your own internal mental model of how something works.
Making your thinking visible to yourself.
Exactly. You can't just state a fact. The system constantly prompts you to justify the underlying mechanism. Why does this work? How does it connect?
Give me an example task.
Okay, the causal chain explanation. You're prompted. Explain precisely how step A leads to outcome B, which then creates the necessary condition for C to happen. It forces you to trace the logic, ensuring you grasp the mechanics, not just the final result.
No black boxes allowed.
None. Or an even more demanding one, the CEO versus new hire explanation.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You have to explain the same complex strategic idea twice. First, to a time-pressed CEO, requiring high-level, concise synthesis, the so what. Then immediately after, you explain it to a brand new hire who needs simplified, actionable steps relevant to their personal development.
Wow, that requires real flexibility.
Immense flexibility. If you can't effectively tailor the explanation to those 2 dramatically different audiences and contexts, it signals that your own internal model has gaps. And the system will then prompt you with targeted follow-up tasks to fix those specific gaps.
That deep synthesis sounds like it relates to dual coding theory, encoding things verbally and non-verbally.
Directly. Alan Pavio's theory. We know from decades of research that encoding knowledge in 2 distinct but complementary channels like language and visual imagery exponentially improves recall and understanding.
2 hooks are better than 1.
Much better. But the platform doesn't just show you a helpful diagram that's too passive. It makes you create the nonverbal representation.
Ah, the generation effect again.
Exactly. Take the success metaphor task. You might be asked to explain a complex concept, Like, say, building organizational resilience, using a concrete physical metaphor. Explain it as if it were a well-built suspension bridge.
Okay.
And then you have to justify the mapping. Why is this component of resilience like the main cable? Why is that part like the foundation? Or another task, the growth chart visualization. You have to describe the specific X and Y axes you would use to visually represent measurable progress in the skill you're learning.
That cognitive effort itself builds the memory trace.
A much more durable, interconnected memory trace.
Okay. Moving towards practical application, situated cognition. Making sure the skills work in the real world.
Yeah, this principle emphasizes that knowledge is often inseparable from the context in which it's used. Learning in a vacuum doesn't work well.
So the tasks need to feel real.
They need to be authentic simulations.
Yeah.
The concept you're learning is treated like a practical, professional tool from the get-go. For instance, the toolkit tasks.
The tool.
It asks you to take the concept you just learned. Maybe it's a decision-making framework like the Eisenhower matrix and categorize it. Is this tool best described as a hammer, a blueprint, a diagnostic scope, or something else? And then describe the specific professional job or situation this tool is best suited for.
So you have to think about when and why you'd use it.
Precisely. It moves the knowledge immediately from abstract theory to practical deployment-ready skill.
And leveraging that old adage, the best way to learn is to teach. The protege effect.
Right. We know that preparing to teach something forces you to organize your thoughts, simplify complexities, and anticipate misunderstandings.
It clarifies your own thinking.
Immensely. So tasks like the mentoring plan utilize this. You're asked to imagine you have to teach this concept to a novice. What are the 3 biggest misconceptions they're likely to have? And what specific analogy or simplified framework would you prepare to counteract each one?
You're forced into the teacher's shoes.
And that act of anticipating errors and structuring the lesson deeply solidifies the knowledge for you, the expert in training.
This constant shifting of perspectives, applying, explaining. It sounds like it actively fights against rigid thinking, which must be where cognitive flexibility theory comes in.
Absolutely essential, especially for complex, ill-structured domains like leadership, strategy, or even parenting. Real-world problems rarely have one single right answer or approach.
You need to be adaptable.
You need to be able to restructure your knowledge, remix it, apply it in novel ways. So the tasks constantly demand this. The remix challenge, for instance.
Remix.
It might ask you to take the main concept you just mastered and deliberately combine it with a different, perhaps older, common framework. Combine this new customer feedback analysis technique with a classic SWOT analysis. What new hybrid insight or tool could you generate?
That's actually creating new knowledge, not just recalling it.
Exactly. True knowledge creation.
Now, I have to jump in here with a question that touches on something mentioned earlier, those advanced business topics like true office politics mastery. Can an AI system, even a sophisticated one, truly teach something as nuanced, dynamic, and often nonverbal as office politics? Or is it just giving you generic behavioral templates that might backfire in a real complex human situation?
That is a fair and important challenge and goes back to those core principles. Deliberate practice and meaning as use. The platform isn't claiming it can predict every subtle human interaction in real time.
Right.
But what it can do is equip you with the sophisticated conditional policies for action needed to navigate that ambiguity effectively. The office politics subject, for example, wouldn't just give you rules. It would focus heavily on tasks using principles like perspective thinking and empathy mapping.
Ah, okay. So it's about preparation and strategy.
Yes, the task would force you to simulate potential political scenarios, predict likely stakeholder reactions based on their stated and unstated interests, which you'd map out, and then justify the policy behind your planned response. If X happens, my approach will be Y because of underlying principle Z about influence. It's about building strategic foresight, not just memorizing tactics.
Speaking of foresight, that ties into perspective thinking or episodic future thought, training the brain to simulate the future.
Critical for strategic thinking and resilience. The system operationalizes this through structured simulations.
Wow.
Tasks like the future simulation, it might ask. Based on fully mastering this concept, predict the single most significant positive outcome you could achieve 1 year from now. Now, articulate the first 3 concrete steps you must take, starting tomorrow, to make that outcome likely.
Forcing you to connect learning to long-term goals and immediate action.
Yes. Or the flip side, the pre-mortem challenge, Gary Klein's technique.
The pre-mortem, assuming failure beforehand.
Exactly. You're asked to imagine a key project using this concept has completely failed 6 months down the road. Explain the most likely reasons why it failed. This forces you to anticipate potential obstacles and failure points now, so you can build in resilience and mitigation strategies before you even start.
That's powerful. Proactive failure analysis.
Very. And finally, rounding out this cognitive workout, two key components often neglected: divergent thinking and emotion and cognition.
Creativity and feelings.
Pretty much. Divergent thinking, drawing from Guilford's work, actively fosters your ability to generate multiple unique ideas or solutions, moving beyond the single correct answer.
How does a task encourage that?
Like the question burst task.
Yeah?
Instead of answering questions, you're challenged to generate as many unique, relevant, and insightful questions about the concept as you possibly can in, say, 2 minutes. It pushes you beyond just stating known facts.
Interesting. And emotion and cognition.
This acknowledges that smart decisions aren't purely rational. They integrate emotional data. Tasks like the emotional audit or the empathy map force this connection.
How?
You might be asked, when you implement this strategic change based on the concept you learned, what specific emotional resistances are your team members likely to feel? And what specific communication strategy will you use to acknowledge and address those emotions directly? It builds a more holistic, socially intelligent capability.
Okay, wow. That is a lot of different tasks.
Right.
100 variations per concept.
The main takeaway here for you, the listener, seems to be the sheer rigor.
It's definitely rigorous.
You are absolutely not just passively clicking through screens or checking boxes. You're constantly engaged in active creation, self-diagnosis, justification, application, 100 different ways for every single core idea.
That's the design.
And that intensity, that constant multifaceted challenge, must be why the platform claims to counteract cognitive biases like the Dunning-Kruger effect.
It forces an accurate self-assessment.
Right. You can't easily overestimate your competence when you're constantly being asked to demonstrate it in demanding, varied ways and getting immediate diagnostic feedback on your performance. Your understanding of your own level of mastery becomes much more accurate.
And because this whole methodology, this engine, is built on these, 32 universal scientific principles of how humans learn best.
Regardless of the subject matter. Exactly. Its versatility is enormous.
Yeah.
The platform isn't just locked into one market or one type of learner. It applies this deep learning approach to very specific, often high-value needs across all the customer groups identified in the sources.
Okay, let's look at that variety. For schools, that means leaders and teachers, it seems to go beyond basic curriculum support. It tackles some tough professional development areas.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And it links back to that Finnish pedagogical focus on supporting the educators themselves, not just the students.
What kind of topics?
Crucial, actionable things that directly impact the school environment and student outcomes. Subjects like advancing equity and leadership for principals and administrators, crisis management skills, and essential classroom practices like teaching traumatized students or teaching in culturally responsive classrooms.
Really addressing the complex realities of modern education.
Yes. And importantly, by automating this highly personalized practice and feedback loop for the teacher's own professional growth, the platform directly aims to help combat teacher burnout. It frees up their valuable time and cognitive energy for the things AI can't do: high-impact mentoring, building relationships, addressing unique student needs.
That's a significant benefit. Now, what about for parents? The focus there seems twofold.
It is. It's split between subjects aimed at developing the parent's own skills in managing the learning environment at home. Things like studying while coping with trauma, acknowledging the stresses families face, or practical skills like effective sibling conflict resolution.
Okay, supporting the parent.
Right. But then there's also content aimed directly at helping children develop those foundational meta skills we talked about earlier.
Using the same deep learning engine.
Yes, but adapted. It leverages self-determination theory heavily to foster intrinsic motivation. Imagine subjects titled How I Learned to Love Curiosity, or How I Learned to Love Self-Discipline Home Edition, or even How I Learned to Love Resilience.
Framing these skills as something to be desired and mastered, not just forced.
Exactly. The goal is to shift the dynamic away from parental nagging, or focusing purely on compliance, towards the child taking ownership of their own learning process, making the process itself feel intrinsically rewarding, which hopefully minimizes those classic homework battles and reduces frustration for everyone.
Okay, schools, parents. What about the business, startups, and professionals segment? The demands there must be squarely focused on practical skills and immediate ROI.
Absolutely. The library for this group has to be built for tangible results. The sources mention over 150 advanced business subjects.
Covering what kind of ground?
It's broad and deep. It ranges from very tactical, high-value skills like the 15,000-plus sales closing techniques encyclopedia,
15,000, wow.
apparently, or subjects like behavioral design mastery, which forces you to apply core psychological principles to product development or user engagement.
So practical application is key.
Always. And it also includes more strategic subjects like decoding venture capitalists, understanding how they think and make decisions, or that true office politics mastery we discussed. The aim is always to provide durable, applicable skills that resist that rapid forgetting curve you get with typical corporate training workshops.
Build skills that stick and can be used immediately.
That's the value proposition.
And for larger organizations, perhaps one of the most powerful aspects is the ability to feed their own internal knowledge into this engine, the custom content feature.
Yes, this is where the platform becomes a tool for scaling internal expertise and knowledge management.
How does it work?
The AI can essentially ingest a company's existing static content, could be internal training manuals, complex compliance documents, proprietary research, standard operating procedures.
All that stuff usually stuck in PDFs or old intranets.
Exactly. And the AI instantly converts that static material into a dynamic, interactive, 100-task deep learning subject, using all the principles we've discussed.
So it turns dormant company knowledge into an active, scalable learning asset.
Precisely. And critically, the organization retains complete control over who can access that custom content. It could be restricted just for internal onboarding of new hires, or maybe offered externally to specific partners, clients, or certification programs.
Total control over access. That's important.
Very. And just as a side note on accessibility, the sources do mention a significant philanthropic element. Apparently, the platform offers 360 of its standard subjects completely free of charge to any government-funded school anywhere in the world.
That's quite a commitment. Okay, so we've gone through the foundations, the engine, the applications. Let's bring it back to the individual learner. After this deep dive into the architecture, what does this all mean for you listening right now?
It means you're not just signing up for a course to learn facts about topic X.
Sure.
You're investing in a structured system designed to actively restructure how your brain learns.
To achieve mastery of that ultimate meta skill.
Exactly. This is the most profound and potentially life-changing benefit the sources claim: the systematic development of accelerated learning and the meta skill of mastery.
Let's revisit that cognitive gym analogy you used.
Okay. Think of those 100 deep learning tasks we discussed: retrieval practice, analogical reasoning, divergent thinking, self-explanation, pre-mortem analysis, all of them. Think of each one as a specialized piece of cognitive workout equipment in this gym: the analogical reasoning machine, the divergent thinking station, the causal chain builder.
Got it. Specialized tools for mental fitness.
Precisely. Now, when you tackle your very first subject on the platform, let's say it's Startup Valuation Mastery, you're essentially learning how to use each piece of that equipment with perfect form.
It's hard work initially.
It is hard work because you're not just learning about valuation. You're consciously figuring out how to apply dual coding to valuation concepts, how to use perspective thinking for financial projections, how to do effective self-explanation on complex formulas. You're mastering the technique of the deep learning workout itself.
So the first subject involves learning the content and learning the process simultaneously. That sounds like the steepest part of the curve.
It is. You're fighting against old habits, against cognitive friction, while learning new material. But here's where the magic, the compounding effect happens.
Okay.
When you move on to your next subject, maybe you switch gears entirely to winning leadership mastery. Something crucial has changed.
What's that?
You don't have to consciously learn the workout routine all over again. Your brain, through that first rigorous subject, has started to move those complex cognitive processes.
Like applying self-explanation or using perspective thinking.
Exactly. It's moved them from being effortful, declarative strategies you have to consciously think about applying
To becoming
automated, context-sensitive procedural policies. They become almost unconscious skills. Your brain has essentially proceduralized and automated the entire deep learning workout.
So you skip the learning how to learn friction the second time around.
You largely skip it. You can now apply virtually 100% of your cognitive energy directly to understanding the new content. leadership principles, because the process of deeply learning and mastering that content is already running efficiently, almost automatically in the background.
Wow, so you learn faster.
You learn faster, you induce the underlying schema of the new domain more quickly, and you likely reach a deeper level of mastery with less perceived effort. Your time to criterion, the time it takes to hit a high level of competence, should demonstrably decrease.
That's the compounding
That's
effect.
the compounding effect. Each subject makes you better and faster at learning the next one. It's designed as a permanent cognitive upgrade, not just a temporary knowledge boost.
So summing it all up, the platform isn't just delivering content, it's a strategic partner. It actively engineers deep understanding using deliberate practice, focused always on that principle of meaning as use.
And the outcome, the promise, is that every time you use it, you're not just learning a subject, you're accelerating your fundamental process of learning itself. For the rest of your life. #outro.
That really puts it into perspective. The focus shifts from just accumulating knowledge to actually upgrading the machinery that acquires it.
It does. And if we accept the premise that knowledge is power, then mastering the method of acquiring knowledge effectively and efficiently, that becomes the ultimate force multiplier.
Yeah.
The real success of a system like this, if it delivers on its promises, isn't just measured by the facts you retain about venture capital or classroom management. It's measured by the fundamental structural revision of your cognitive system.
Becoming a more effective thinker and learner overall.
Exactly. It's like the difference between meticulously following a single recipe versus fundamentally understanding the principles of cooking so you can innovate, adapt, and create new dishes entirely on your own. Those scientific principles, the system embodies self-relevance, dual coding, retrieval practice, the pre-mortem challenge. They stop being just abstract academic terms.
And they become.
They become automatic, intuitive strategies for how you approach any new challenge and any new learning situation.
That is genuinely a life-altering proposition, if it works as described. Which leads us to the final thought for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive.
The question becomes, if you truly believed that the time and effort required for you to become genuinely expert in any new field would significantly decrease with every subsequent field you chose to tackle.
Because you're mastering the process itself.
Right. If that compounding efficiency was real, what would you choose to master next? How does that change your ambitions, your career trajectory, your personal goals?
What possibilities open up that perhaps felt too daunting, too time-consuming before?
It reframes the entire landscape of lifelong learning. And remember that crucial element we discussed, psychological safety.
The freedom to fail.
Yes. True mastery, pushing into expertise, almost always requires confronting the edges of your current knowledge. And that means making mistakes. The ability to try, fail, and get instant diagnostic feedback in a completely private, safe environment.
Yeah.
That's not just a nice feature, it's arguably the core enabler that makes this kind of accelerated deep learning possible in the first place.
A fascinating look at the potential of science-backed learning architecture. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this exploration has given you a detailed and perhaps inspiring perspective on what true deep learning might look like and what it could help you achieve.